Game on, everyone! Undead versus a human. MadFrog to the top left in our game today is starting in blue against our human player down to the bottom right of the map. It's YaMamuka. I'm pretty sure that that name actually means something, but I gotta admit I was a little bit too lazy to look it up, so yeah, we're just gonna run with that. But yeah, we have an Undead versus human, and well, first of all, Terenas Stand, of course, being the map here. I'm pretty hyped for this one. Again, first thing first, I'm really happy that we have now that overlay that allows you to see not only the heroes on both sides, but also the resources that the two are currently holding. In the game at hand, we're gonna try and see what exactly MadFrog is gonna be doing here, because with him you never really know. I mean, he is one of the most successful pros in Reign of Chaos back in the days, and then, if you might remember, he was also one of the first ones that together with Insomnia went to Korea and came back and just obliterated the entire competition within Europe, but at some point decided that esports was just not a sustainable thing for him, and yeah, focused on his real life instead. Mountain King first is what he's going to be up again today. So MadFrog these days playing a lot more. Also obviously just like trying to climb the ladder and establish the stream. If you want to check his stream out, you can go over to twitch.tv/MadQFrog. And I think he's at this point actually rank 30 on the European ladder and roughly a level 40. Going with the Death Knight first, and actually an early graveyard, which is pretty surprising for MadFrog, because in general when you see him play, he's one of the last bastions that still wants to play Ghoul Garg whenever he can, and very rarely resorts to Fiends, because it's a playstyle that he doesn't enjoy. And I'm kind of right there with him. In the old days of Reign of Chaos, it was always a double aura that you would play as an Undead and then go into Ghoul Frenzy and play Ghouls and Gargs, and it was a very, very fast, very aggressive style, whereas Fiends are a little bit slower in the way that you play them. And obviously that came in with the Frozen Throne when statues all of a sudden became a big deal. So MadFrog still trying to play old school style quite a lot. But in this game, it looks like we're going to get some Fiends. Death Knight already on the way down to the bottom, and I think the Acolyte hasn't actually seen yet what first hero is being played here. Because as we are seeing the creep, the Acolyte, gets sniped immediately. Might still not have seen what hero is there, and that's actually a big deal. Because Mountain King first means that as an Undead player, you can't really harass your opponent anymore, or that Storm Bullet's going to hit you in the face. And not only does that leave a pretty big dent, but at the same time, it's also going to make sure that you are ending up surrounded, and then you have to TP out. So MadFrog is realizing that Toon is saying, like, okay, sayonara, I'm out of here. A quick mana burn coming through from the Wand of Mana stealing, so he gets that in. Well, it's very unlikely that MadFrog is going to linger around for too long. With all the footmen being around, he's probably going to be like, don't quite know about that. When we're looking down towards the bottom bridge, we have another structure built. In this case, it's actually an Arcane Vault, so he can access that whenever he's close to the expansion here, or when he's moving out towards the bottom left. So that's going to be important for him too. For the human player, for YaMamuka. And for MadFrog, we have the tech into Tier 2. Straight into the next one, whereas into the Halls of the Dead, whereas we don't see a tech for YaMamuka yet. So there's actually a pretty good chance that he's going to start us up with an expansion on the side of the map already, getting the Forest Troll Shadow Priest, and that really helps when you're up against an Undead player just in general, because the Rod of Necromancy is such a fantastic tool for Undeads that I don't know a single Undead player that wouldn't get it right at the beginning of the game to allow himself to creep a little bit easier, to get a little harass going. And as you can see, MadFrog already has one in his inventory as well, so Forest Troll Shadow Priest can pretty easily start dispelling those skeletons, and that's always free experience for you right away. In terms of items, Claws of Attack +6 and Ring of Protection +2. Now, the Ring-a-Ding, you don't really want to get that, but still, it's going to make that DK a little bit more tanky, and then at the end of the day you can always sell it for money if you're a little bit starved for it. Level 3 on the Mountain King, pretty early on here already, and we're going to see that expansion after all. Mountain King heading over to the shop, so we might see boots on his as well, selling a couple of items. Staff of Teleportation, okay, can definitely start harassing with that. And talking about harass, we already have a couple of units scouting out what's happening here, trying to find where exactly the Undead player is currently busying himself by taking down a few creeps. And the problem for MadFrog is he's currently on level 1 with the Death Knight. He desperately needs some experience, considered as his opponent is already on level 3. Death Knight finally about to hit the Unholy Aura. Hell was about time. as a good friend of mine would have said. And in the meantime, we're still seeing Fiends being pushed by MadFrog. No attempt to go for an expansion himself, but he finds the 2 units that were scouting for him the entire time and is about to take the first one down. Well, the Footman actually decided that it's a good idea to commit a little bit of Sudoku down here. Moves straight into the creep camp, and MadFrog is not really willing to battle with that just yet. But the expansion is already underway, and now with the Fiends, all of a sudden MadFrog has a chance of taking this on. 29 supply against 33 in favor of the Undead player. Stormbolt, as expected, immediately hitting the Death Knight straight to the face here, and he's already low. The clap is hitting the entire army too. And MadFrog still trying to snipe a few units, but damn, that Mountain King really has a hard-on for the DK. Down goes the... well, he doesn't go down, but he TP's out. And the Death Knight escaping, but the Forest Troll Shadow Priest at least eliminated. So now we're having the expansion in play. Looking into the main base, YaMamuka has not teched just yet. I mean, that's going to take him a little bit. But up to the top, and now having more experience coming in from MadFrog, who of course has now reached the halls of that, techs right away into the Black Citadel. And has a Lich as well on the way. So we're going to see pretty quickly him heading straight into the Orb of Corruption. And if you're up against an opponent that has an expansion as an Undead player, you basically have 2 options. Either you think about expanding as well. We don't see it as much, but we have a couple of players, MadFrog being one of them, End being another, and a few others that these days sometimes even go into a Dreadlord early expand against some races on the map specifically. But in this case now, it's a quick tech into tier 3, and that means we're going to very likely see some big push coming from MadFrog once that he has the tech advantage over his opponent. It's the big sacrifice that you make as a human player whenever you go into a fast expansion. You're sacrificing your tech quite a lot. And a lot of the human players, like for example Tort, have by now also started to play way more on one base, at least initially. The one base rifle sorcerer's push, for example, is quite powerful. Slaughterhouse already being built here, MadFrog, so adding a couple of tech structures for himself. Whereas the Death Knight is pretty well equipped when it comes to items, has a potion of greater healing too. So a bit of RNG involved here for MadFrog, definitely a decent item considering what the human player is currently attempting to pull off here. And talking about YaMamuka, down the base, still no tech into keep for him. So still keeps it on the Town Hall and adds a few more Scout Towers to his own base, Arcane Towers in particular. Really important for him to drain the mana of the undead heroes that could attack him. And, on top of that, deal with skeletons. In the main base, statues are being built right now. And the 2 are actually missing each other. Oh, Stormbolt, massive one to the face. And the coil is there. That was a bit unfortunate for him. If he would just have gotten 1 hit in, that would have been all that he needed. But the coil was a little bit faster. But initially, MadFrog didn't see that coming either. And damn, that Mountain King. It's only level 3, but that Stormbolt takes nearly half the HP of the Lich. Staff of Teleportation being used. And if you take a quick look at the minimap, you see these scout farms everywhere. And these things are just super annoying. 500 hit points, 5 armor, cheap to build. And they don't even provide the 10 supply that you get as an undead player from a Ziggurat. So even if you take them down, which is going to take you quite some time, it's not really a big deal for the human player. And it's a fantastic tool to just get scout information on the map. And that is exactly what YaMamuka has right now. He knows exactly what's happening here. That is fantastic for him. In the meantime, we're actually having more creep going for our Mountain King, who's going to hit level 4 with this. And wow, he has actually Rune Bracers as well. Have fun trying to nuke that guy, especially with the Ring of Regeneration as an inventory. That's not going to be happening anyway soon. Mass towers now also in the main base. Seems like YaMamuka is expecting a big destroyer push happening here, and is hoping that at least with those towers he can keep that on a little bit longer. More statues being built. Should probably now see also upgrade into this. Ooh, meat wagons instead. No destroyers. Okay, we are gonna be in for a big siege of MadFrog against the expansion. And he himself is apparently already thinking about getting an expansion into his base as well. And the scout tower is being built by YaMamuka. He's just sitting there just saying like, I don't even need to attack you. I'm just going to make sure that I have a couple of towers nearby. Boots of Khaldor, Mountain King again with a big clap. Gets the Nova to the face, but the Rune Bracers are already mitigating most of that damage. And the Ring of the Regeneration is doing a lot with that too. And he's still fighting. Stormbolt massively hitting that Fiend. And boy, is that thing hurting. But the Mountain King is starting to run out of mana, and that's a big problem. Sees the meat wagon on the other hand. The rest of the army runs away, but he sees the meat wagon. And at the top, the Mountain King actually, gets still hit by that Orb of Corruption, but the expansion attempt of MadFrog was cancelled, and now we're having Scout Towers also being upgraded to Guard Towers. Down at the expansion, we have a Blacksmith completely trying to block off these turrets as much as he can, and we're having a lot more of them built too. No Tier 2 tech completed just yet, but we're about to see that happen. It's just a defense problem that I'm looking at right now. 34 supply against 50 supply basically tell you what's going on here. YaMamuka is relying heavily on those structures that are defending his natural and also his main base, but he doesn't really have a huge army out there. It's 1 hero against 2, a 3-3 on the side of the Undead, which means that we are looking at a level 2 Coil and Nova, and even with Ruined Braces, eventually that's gonna hurt. MadFrog trying to set up a siege against the expansion itself, and I mean, right now he also has those meat wagons, and the meat wagons are already trying to whittle down the hit points on the turrets. And there's more coming, of course. Another one on the way. YaMamuka is getting his second hero. Ooh, and we're looking at a Blood Mage. Alright, could have been a Paladin, but instead he's trying to get the Blood Mage out just so that he can drain the decay of mana and then pass it over to the Mountain King and just nuke the shit out of the Undead. I kind of like that. Blood Mage style here from him. Disease Cloud, on the other hand, is really starting to wreck that worker line that we're seeing here. That starts to become a problem. Nice coil. Straight onto the peasant. Snipes them one after another. Still has all of those statues that help him out with a long-term sustain. Resources are not too shabby for MadFrog either. Obviously, he's still mining from only one base. Talking about bases, look at that. YaMamuka, sassy as fuck, going straight in and getting another base at the expansion of MadFrog. Might be able to snipe also the meat wagon here. Ooh, and yeah, meat wagon down. Could actually retreat and doesn't do that. Is trying to drop some of the statues as well. Blood Mage is in, starts with the drain, can pass the mana over, and already another quick coil hitting the Lich, trying to save that. One of the fiends going down. MadFrog needs to be careful here. Is trying to micro away from this. Things are getting a bit more iffy for him. More meat wagons are coming in. Supply 43 against 38 in favor of the Undead. Massive amount of resources for MadFrog too. Like him staying out of the low upkeep is really working out, but it's still that expansion that we're seeing from YaMamuka here. Problematic is of course that he is currently not doing anything in terms of mining. He needs to rebuild those peasants, and that's exactly what he's doing. Here comes the Blood Mage again, together with the Mountain King. I mean, this is not really an army. This is a problem, if anything. Another Stormbolt hitting. He's just trying to make sure that the Death Knight is not going to be an issue. Level 4 on him. Stormbolt and then the Drain. But now the attack onto the MK itself. Mountain King still with the Rune Bracer. Super important here. Another big Stormbolt is hitting, and it's hitting hard. The mana drain continues from the Blood Mage, and he's just trying to take down as many of these... as many of the meat wagons, first of all, as he can. Now the Blood Mage is in trouble, and that's not good news. One statue goes down. Oh, but the Blood Mage falls as well. Statues and meat wagons have been eliminated, though. I mean, pretty much all that YaMamuka is trying to do right now is try and buy himself some time, right? He's trying to just eliminate as many of those siege units as he possibly can to make sure that MadFrog is wasting more and more time here. And the more time MadFrog takes to take something down, the more mining is going to happen here. Keep in mind there's another base all the way up at the top. And this is an insane amount of income that we're currently seeing here for YaMamuka. It's actually crazy. I mean, that bad boy is currently mining from 3 bases. So he has 0 supply compared to MadFrog. I mean, he's 20 down, but he has the income. He needs the production structures, and he needs to make sure that he's just getting more units into play. I'm a little bit wondering really why he's not producing any units at this point either. I mean, he's also not rebuilding that Blood Mage, which is another big concern, but we have a bit of a fight happening here. Oh, Stormbolt, so far, dodged out. MadFrog still battling down at the bottom of the map. Oh, Blood Mage is already back, that's why he's not building it. I was just like, wait a second, that can't be right. But yeah, it was a bit too quick for me to catch. So with that, we have MadFrog now also moving straight into the low upkeep. He actually wants to pull in the final blow here. A Blood Mage is a little bit unfortunate, running straight into the army. But basically YaMamuka is just trying to run away here. It's just trying to rush away. And I'm still waiting for him to really crank out a couple of units. But we're having him with a workshop being built now. But outside of that, he's not really doing too much. He's just heavily relying on all of those turrets that he has in play. Mountain King TP'd out, but MadFrog is of course like very interested of taking this place down now. 1,200 gold still for MadFrog, going in again, and we're having this base pretty much obliterated. Already the peasants are trying to get the hell out of there because they really know that 3 turrets are not going to be enough to stop MadFrog. MadFrog has no upgrades at this point, but still the meat wagon down here. We're still seeing a couple of acolytes that made it all the way to the bottom left now, being taken down too. But that Blood Mage outside of items doesn't really have a lot. And this is where most of the money so far from YaMamuka went. He went into items. And he's now in the main base building a double workshop. I would really like for him to maybe even speed build a couple of these things, because to tell you the truth, the turtle up strategy with the towers might really not be the worst idea, but once you are going up against meat wagons, it's a bit of a different story. I mean, then eventually you're just going to be sieged down. And MadFrog, of course, his job is to really get a base going, right? He needs an expansion right now, and that's exactly what he tries to get here at his natural. Because as we saw just a little while ago, he sent a couple of acolytes down here, was thinking about maybe getting an expansion there, but they were chased away and taken down by the Blood Mage. But the Blood Mage is still on level 1. MadFrog actually forgot a Fiend here. Don't really think that it was only left there for scouting purposes. The Mountain King in the meantime, invisible, is trying to run around here a bit and see what's gonna happen. These need to be addressed at some point. Okay, now he realizes that he has them. Those were the few peasants that were mining from the expansion the entire time. But the Mountain King is definitely going to double check what's going to happen there. Might be able to also get some damage going at that expansion attempt. And YaMamuka in the meantime is starting to crank out flying machines. That's where most of the resources go. Somehow deal with all those pesky destroyers. Paladin is coming in too. And with that, we're seeing him at 41 supply against the 65 that MadFrog holds. It's the hero levels really that concern me more than anything else. Because MadFrog is looking at 2 level 5 heroes now. And that Mountain King was pretty powerful at the beginning of the game. But right now, we are seeing it's not even level 5. So you can Stormbolt a bit if you want. But at the end of the day, you're going to have to use not only that Potion of Less Invulnerability, steals the Cloak of Shadows, but then the Staff of Teleportation. And for some reason, alright, comes in a bit late, but he uses it regardless. But you go up against the level 3 Karl Nova. That's not going to be pretty for you, dude. That is going to be pretty tough to beat. MadFrog at 67 supply. YaMamuka now with a Paladin as the 3rd hero. A bit of a better option. And he's actually about to cancel the expansion of his opponent. Needs to try and do that, but the immediate focus onto the Blood Mage has to staff the Mountain King out, I would assume. And no, Town Portal being used by him. Alright. Doesn't sacrifice anything here. Mountain King survives, and the expansion is eliminated. That means that, again, MadFrog doesn't really have a second income, and he's looking at only 2,000 gold left in his main base. So he's starting to really run out of resources eventually, whereas YaMamuka is now saying, like, you know what, I didn't get the base up at the top, but there's another gold mine, and let's build a couple of turrets. Has to update that, though. So that's the next story. So he has to make sure that he's kind of upgrading all of that if he really wants to establish it. Personally, I would prefer for him to also make sure that he gets a decent base out. Decent army out. Paladin! Where's that Blood Mage when you need it? Ah, too late. Blood Mage obviously has that Staff of Sanctuary, so he could use that. But not ready and not in range. And now we're looking at a level 1 Blood Mage, a level 4 Mountain King, and MadFrog is just nuking the shit out of his opponent. Staff of Sanctuary being used, yes, by now 3, 1 of each hero, but we have a couple of ghouls down here at those bases. Scout towers are eventually going to finish and take them apart, but MadFrog should be able to deal with this quite nicely. And he's sieging up at the base now as expected. 69 supply against 44. And YaMamuka is gonna have a hard time defending this now. He just doesn't have enough. He moves units to the top again, trying to make sure that he takes this down. All of those flying machines are still there. And the turrets are actually about to finish down at the bottom. I guess the ghouls are gonna be able to take one more apart, but that should be about it. And I was talking about taking things apart. This base is still heavily sieged up. There's only one meat wagon right now, but the disease cloud is already starting to kill all of the workers. That's another big problem. Mountain King on the way back down. Turrets are done. In the main base, we have the revive on the Blood Mage, and now the Paladin is nearly completed again too. But it's still a struggle. 44 supply against 62. MadFrog massively on the siege, and here come the flying machines. Starting to try and move in. There's no destroyers really though, and all of those fiends are turning around and be like, are you kidding us? Like, alright, I guess we web you. We'll get the web in. And this is starting to look really bad. And YaMamuka leaves the game. The siege is on. MadFrog chasing his opponent over the map here and laying siege to the early expansion attempt. A good job by MadFrog. Pretty kind of interesting style here from YaMamuka as well. Mountain King could have been a problem in the long run. especially with all of the resources that the human player had here. But at the same time, never really able to win any of these fights, and very heavily reliant on this turtle style without getting an army out onto the field. So that was definitely a bit of a concern here. Either way, GG and well played. And we are going to jump into another game soon. A little bit more Warcraft 3 content coming up, since we had so much Heroes of the Storm lately. So I hope you enjoyed that, and there's more going to come soon.